Hey everybody, it's Bridget Battles. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Bridget. Tonight is part 2 with Cameron Washington. Listen, last Thursday night was absolutely amazing. And because of the feedback that we got, I decided that, you know what, there's got to be a part 2. There's still so many things we haven't shared, so many more questions we haven't answered. So tonight, listen, we're giving it all to you tonight, both barrels tonight. So for those of you who are new to Coffee with Bridget, I am Bridget Battles, author of Beauty and Her Battle and Style Strategist. And tonight I have the pleasure of bringing back, for the second time, my brand manager tonight. So help me welcome Cameron Washington. All righty. Hey, Cam.
Hey. What's going on?
How's it going?
It's going good. I'm excited. First of all, I'm honored. I must have said something good. We must have did something right for me to be back. So thank you for having me back.
It's a celebrate.
Hey, let's get it. Let's work.
It's a celebrate. So listen, guys, I need your help tonight. If you can please share this video, share with anybody who you know is a creative, a dreamer, a visionary, because we have some powerful information to share with you tonight. So we want to make sure that, listen, we can't be the only ones killing it out there. Ain't that right, Cam?
That's right.
We want everybody else to come on with us, right? We're taking them with us.
Certainly.
So, all right. So, Cam, last week we talked about the basic principles for actually building a business. And I compared it to a house and really having the foundation set and making sure that you have really, built the foundation that is solid. And then, we kind of added, some additional things with it. So if you missed last week's episode, you got to go back and watch it. So this week, Cam, I think I want to talk about this week about, now that you've built a business or started building a business, you get to that place where the momentum is great. Mm-hmm. You're starting to see a little bit of revenue, but all of a sudden you get stuck.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you get stuck and you're like, I'm in this place right here, but I can't seem to go any further. You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So let's help the people tonight, help all our CEOs tonight. What are some of your strategies and tips for when you get stuck?
Yeah, so I think that's very important because a lot of times we can get to that place and we all have it because let's be honest, as creative as we are, as business-minded as we are, sometimes things happen. Sometimes you're just not in the mood. Sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. Sometimes things can happen that have you preoccupied, issues with family, issues with friends, or just sometimes you have a block. Why? Because your brain needs to reset. It's like, I've been doing photography lately. Shout out to Bridget Battles.
Yes.
Photos.
You're like a model.
You killed it. But I just got this new flash, this trigger. And when you test it, I'm shooting. And then it does this thing where it beeps and it says it needs a few seconds to reset. Right. Mm-hmm. So I was like, that's a perfect analogy for how we as entrepreneurs and creatives need to realize that every once in a while we need a moment to reset. Right. And so but what happens is a lot of times we force the creative process. And what happens is it shows up or doesn't show up in our work. It's not our best project, or we lose the joy for it. And that's the part I want our entrepreneurs and creatives to hear tonight, Bridget, is that this is supposed to be a joyful process. Mm-hmm. You being an entrepreneur, you being a creative, you being a visionary. It is not supposed to stress you out. It is not supposed to make you lose sleep. If you are losing sleep, it should be because you're so excited to get up and start again. So if you feel that happening, and if you feel that you're in that place, then you need a moment to just reset, because a lot of times we can feel like, oh my God, I can't come up with the idea. I can't create. And it's like, no, it's there. But your brain, your body needs a moment to reset. I'm going to finish with this because I've been at the studio pretty much every single day except for Sunday, pastoring on Sundays, right? Mm-hmm. And so I made it a habit. I got home Friday night. And Bridget, it was like, I felt like I was going through withdrawal because I said, I am not opening my laptop. Do you know how hard that was for me?
I know it's very hard for you.
You know how hard that was. But I realized that I didn't want to get to a burned out place. I had to recognize what my body and my brain was saying to me before I got burned out. And it was like, Cam, just take a moment to reset. And so that's what I want to say is to every creative visionary and entrepreneur, be okay with taking a moment to reset.
I agree with you. And also, too, to add to that, that's why it is so important for you to have a coach or a mentor.
Oh, yes.
One of the things my business coach consistently reminds me of, and she says this, you can't read the label when you're inside the jar.
Yeah.
All right, so somebody write that down. You can't read the label when you're inside the jar. You need somebody on the outside who can look at you and see things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And that is where you can gain strength. That's where you can gain insight. And that is also where you can gain wisdom. So it is so important to have a coach, to have a mentor, to have someone in your life who can help you when you get in those places of being stuck. And so the other thing about being stuck is this. You have to recognize that's what's happening. Because if you don't recognize that you're stuck, you will keep on working and working and working. And you're not moving. There are no results. You are consistent, like what is it? A hamster inside of the wheel. You just keep going round and round and round and round and round, and there's no growth.
Yeah.
So it's important that you connect with a coach, a mentor. You connect with other entrepreneurs, other creatives, because you can't see it all and do it all by yourself.
And
so
you know
let me ask you a question.
Yeah, but can I say something else to that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
That was, you know us, we could just go all night talking. You said something very important about connecting with other people and going in circles. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we can get very comfortable with it just working, right? Oh, it's working. I have the same clients. But, I think that it's important for every entrepreneur, and this is a practice that I put in place in my life, and I know you do as well, but I make it a habit to make sure that every month I meet at least two more people, that I can connect with either through partnership, either just to glean from. And then I also make sure that I have touchable mentors, but then I have distant mentors as well. There's some people who mentor me and they don't even know it.
That's good. That's good.
But I make sure that I watch what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I watch their social media. I go to their website. I watch their videos. And so it's important that you have that, because what will also happen is through connecting with those people, not only do you get a chance to reset, but you get a recharge.
That's
because watching somebody else succeed or move to rebuild that passion in you. I've gotten in moments of being stuck, and I'll go to YouTube and watch Oprah's a speech by Oprah. One time I was kind of like stuck, and I went and watched Tyler Perry's studio opening. And Bridget, before I knew it, I was back up like, yes, I'm ready. Because it recharged me, it refueled me. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, so that's good. So, I want to add something else. And, so for those of you who don't know, so Cam is my brand manager. He manages the entire brand. He's responsible for my graphics, my videos. I show up as the talent. So, but also, listen, I show up as the talent and the face of the brand. But let me say hey to our guests. Hey, Franklin. Hey, Cricket.
Yeah, they in here tonight. They in here.
Hey, Flossie. Listen. The people are back. Hey, Simone said, Bridget, you're my virtual mentor. Oh, Simone, I love you. So listen, I also want to go back to that before we go on to the next question, and that is this. So in my life, I have people who are in different stages in my life. There is a group of people who I know who are my influencers.
Yeah.
There are people who I know that can, they can help me influence the brand. There are people I can bounce ideas off of. There are people who tell me the truth. There are people who will support me no matter what. You have that group. And then I have the next layer that comes on after that. And that is the group who I know necessarily may not be up close and personal, but because of my relationship with them, they support me no matter what. I could be selling them candles. I could be selling them tickets to a movie next week, but because they are my supporters, they support me no matter what. And then my last group is I have this group that I kind of run things by, like an advisory board. Mm-hmm. And I just ask them for business insight and business wisdom. So I find having those three different layers that contributes to growth, because number one, they're all gifted and talented in different areas. Certainly. And so a lot of them see things that I may not necessarily see, or a lot of them have experienced things that I may not have necessarily experienced. So having those three different layers is really good. And so that's why I think it's also so important that you understand the difference between having a sponsor, a coach, and a mentor.
Wow.
A sponsor is the person who will talk about you when you're not in the room. A sponsor is the person who will put their name on the line for you because they believe in you, they believe in your product, they believe in your services, they believe in what you have to offer. That's what a sponsor does. The mentor helps to firm you up. The mentor helps you really to polish off your dream. The mentor is the person who will take you underneath their wing and help and guide you to get to that next place. Now, the coach is going to be the person who is brutally honest with you. They're going to tell you, go back to the drawing board. They're going to tell you, did you test this out? Did you try this out? They're going to tell you, did you do a focus group? They're going to ask you, did you write a business plan? So that's why it is so important to have those different layers. So Kim, so you said something I thought was really good that I want to go back to. I'm all hyped now. You done got me excited.
Flow.
Listen, so you said something else. You said that when you get to that place of being stuck, that you'll go, you may watch YouTube or you get inspired by something, or, it may be something that, will trigger you to get you to that place.
Yeah.
So have you ever been stuck where you did not bounce back immediately, where it took you a while to bounce back?
You know what, to be really honest, no, because and I'm not saying that doesn't happen. And I do have advice for people who get there. But I have a undying resilience.
Yes, you do.
I refuse to quit. And I refuse to, I live by something, and it's a principle I live by. And that principle is recover quickly. And that is
quickly. I put that in the comments, recover quickly.
Yeah. In any situation in life, I give myself maybe a day or two to feel bad, to get in that rut, and then it's time for me to get back up. And the reason, Bridget, that I live from that place is because I realize that what I do is not just for me. It is connected to a greater purpose. And the longer that I'm not functioning in what I'm supposed to be doing, the less of an example I am to somebody else. And I think when you connect other people and a greater assignment to what you do, you realize that you don't have time to sit around. You don't have time to soak in it. So give yourself a day or two, but you have to recover. And here's the thing. But if you find that you are struggling, even in that, if it's a strain to recover, then here's the brutal truth. That you may need to assess if that season for that purpose is up. And that's the part that we often struggle with, because sometimes we have to realize, you know what, even though it was good, this has run its course. And I think that's a responsible principle, and it's a responsible entrepreneur to realize that even though something was working, maybe I have fulfilled it to the greatest level, and it's time for me to move in another vein. So I wouldn't say that I've ever had a moment where it took me a long time to bounce back, because I keep at the forefront of my mind that there are other people who are watching my journey and are inspired by what I'm doing. And if I'm not there, then that's one less person that can inspire them.
That's good. So I could agree with you. I haven't had that either, but I have had moments where things didn't necessarily pan out the way that I wanted them to pan out.
Oh yeah.
Things have, sometimes, fallen apart. I recovered quickly, but I've had some situations where I'm thinking, Bridget, you didn't think that through, or Bridget didn't, So give us an example of something that didn't pan out the way that you thought it should have panned out, or your expectation.
I'll give you one, and I'll say this: to err is human, but to recover is divine. And I think that along the way, there is not one entrepreneur, creator, or visionary who can say that they have not made decisions or launched something and been like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. If I had to think of an example, I wouldn't say that it would possibly be one specific project, but I would say that one of the things that I had to learn and recover from was sometimes being too quick and overly ambitious. And I think I talked about this last week, and not thinking through the whole entire process, where I didn't realize what it was going to take to sustain what I had started building. And sometimes that can be even worse, because you can build a demand and people can want what you have, but if you don't assess what it's going to take to maintain it, what will start to happen is there will be errors and there will be loopholes and gray areas in your production or your process of it. For me, if I had to give an example, I would say, when I started a product line, and then, I was excited about the product line and sales were coming in, but then I was like, oh, but somebody got to take this stuff to the post office. So that's how this works. Right. So then it started becoming an issue because it's like, now things are delayed, or now I got to come up with a process to make sure things get out. And to be very transparent with you, that's still something I'm working through with my team as a demand for products are there. But I think that the biggest thing is we have to admit, to ourselves, this didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the honesty in that not only becomes a learning lesson, but it then opens the door for you to recover. Because if you don't admit that something is not right or there's a problem, then there's no room to recover from it.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Wow. I can agree with you. I've had times where that because I was so excited about a product or a project,
right,
and I let my excitement overtake me. And so when my excitement started to overtake me, not only did I not think the process through, but I didn't finish the final steps.
Yes.
And so when you don't finish the final steps, what happens is what could have caused you to generate revenue now causes you to come up with a deficit.
Yep.
And so that's why it's so important to really test things out. It's so important to have focus groups. It's so important to, bounce ideas off of people that you value and you respect. And it's so important that you think things through and make sure that you are operating in the right timing.
Yeah. And I preach about that and I teach about that. I might have said it on this broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
The timing is more important than the idea.
That's good. Timing is
I'm going to tell you, Bridget, because if you can have the right thing, I say it all the time, but launch it in the wrong season or the wrong time, and as great as it may be, it is great for a predestined time. That's why you see some people who have been around forever, and then all of a sudden they just blow up. It's because whatever they have done has connected with time. And the Bible tells us that the race is not given to the swift nor the strong. And it doesn't say he that endureth to the end. No, it says, but time and chance happen
for them all. That's my word right there. Time and chance.
So I felt the shift come in here. And I'm telling you, for every single one of us, if you ever want to have success, don't let just your chance, but let time and chance collide. And that's when you'll see the greatest success.
Yes. Time and chance happening for them all. That's one of my favorite scriptures.
Yes.
And also I want to add to that, and that is this: you have to be consistent, because you can have 500 great ideas, but you can't operate in all 500 at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's about really knowing the purpose and the timing for each idea. Because if you don't, what happens is you have all these ideas and nothing connects. And then you have followers and you have people that support your brand, but they're confused.
Mm-hmm.
They're confused about what you're delivering. One day you want to buy a gas station. Next day you're going to do makeup. The next day you're going to be cleaning houses, and then the next day you're going to be a babysitter. So that's why it is so important. No, it is so. Listen, I have one client who I coached, and I'll make a joke out of it now. Because she has great ideas and she is amazing at what she does, but she gets influenced by profit.
Mm.
And you cannot be influenced by profit. And what I mean by that is this: once you start making a little bit of money, then your decisions change. No, your decisions should not change when you start making a little bit of money. You still have to be consistent and keep doing the same thing over and over and over. Just because you make $20 doesn't mean you spend $20.
No. And what you said right there is one of the key and prime mistakes that a lot of beginning entrepreneurs make, and why people want to be an entrepreneur. I was talking to my sisters the other day, and they were sharing with me about someone, and the person was basically saying they were going to leave their job because they wanted to work for themselves so that they can make money and sleep all day. And I said, well, they're never going to be successful. Because
that's not how it works.
It is the total opposite. And anyone, hear what I say, and you may think it sounds crazy, but y'all hear what I say. If you are chasing money, you will not be successful.
You won't. You won't.
But I'm telling you, if you chase promise, with promise, there is always provision. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you connect what you're doing to a greater purpose, or even what spiritually, whether you are a Christian or not, whatever that destined thing for you to do is, if you connect your purpose to that, because here's the thing, in the beginning of your entrepreneurship, you're not going to make a lot of money.
Say it again.
And maybe even throughout.
Say it again.
It's gonna take years and years. I've been an entrepreneur now for 14 years total, 11 of that full time. I am just now getting to the place where I feel like, okay, now this is working. Mm-hmm. Just this year. Mm-hmm. This is the first year, Bridget, that I don't know why I feel the Holy Ghost on here. You're getting me excited. I gotta calm down. Yeah. This is the first year that I've really been able to sit and be like, oh, wow, this is really working now. I can not totally relax, but I can sit back and be like, okay, now I can start to enjoy some of what I've been working for, and not to be boastful, but, you know, I'm working on a special project that I haven't announced yet. And Bridget, I started, and I know we can talk like this because you understand, because one thing about me and Bridget, we celebrate each other. We don't hate on each other. We celebrate each other. But, you know, not to sound, you know, cocky, but I had to pull my bank statement, right? So I was like, okay, let me just get them this information. And I had to do a double take because I was like, whose name is on this statement? I say all that to say, out of 14 years of building something, hosting events, working with clients, doing this is the first time that I've looked and been like, yo, like I'm really doing something. And I hope you all hear that, because it's going to take you time to build that. But Bridget, you said something very key. You got to focus. You got to work this while planning that.
Absolutely. You
can't launch everything all at once. I launch every week. And I know sometimes I'm guilty of it, but y'all know all my stuff connects, so don't judge me. But you gotta let people get comfortable with you in one vein. And once they see that you've mastered that and you earn their respect in that, then launch the next thing, because they can look at it and say, okay, you know what? I saw Keisha did good with the makeup brand, so now I can trust her with interior design.
Right. Right. And, you know, and to going back to a couple of things, 3 things that stuck out of my head. Number one, when I talk about being consistent, you have to be consistent, because when you're consistent, that builds trust.
Yes.
And so people buy into you before they buy into your product. They buy into you, the person itself, before they buy the product. So if you're consistently showing up,
yes,
that means they trust you, and people support people that they trust. The second thing is that, you know, when it comes to your brand, it comes to really generating revenue, you have to be so clear on your messaging.
Oh, yeah.
Your messaging should not confuse the buyer. Confused buyers don't buy products. If we have to consistently DM you all the time, and we have to consistently wait for a Facebook response from you, confused buyers don't buy. So what happens is you're holding up you going to the next place. That's the second thing. And the third thing, you know, you said something that was so key. You said you were just now really, you know, looking at your bank statements. And so for me, you know, total transparency, I feel like now I'm just now at the point where people know when they see the BBs that it's Bridget Battles.
Yes.
It's about brand recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I feel like I'm just now getting to that point of brand recognition. And then when I hear people speak about me or speak about my brand, in my mind, I'm thinking, are you really talking about me? You know those moments?
Yeah.
You know, just when you talk about me, like. And I think that that's so important to feel that way, because it keeps you, you know, it keeps you humble. Right. It keeps you at a point, because you don't want to ever get to where that you feel like that you outshine the brand. Mm-hmm. If you outshine the brand will not be sustained, and the brand won't last. So this is my segue into my next, you know, my next questionnaire, my next question. Okay.
Okay.
So I think that is so important before you to build the business and the business case before you build brand recognition. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't build a solid business and you worry about brand recognition, What happens then is you have brand recognition, but no product and no relationships.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you, and I think it goes back to what we talked about last week when we talked about putting systems and processes in place. Because after you launch the website and put up the graphic, then what? Right? What's your process? So you've done all this branding, but then when people are like, "Okay, I want your services," now you're like, "Oh my God, I got to come up with a contract," or "Oh my God, I got to find, you know, am I LLC? Am I incorporated?" You know, so all of those things, you have to build that foundation. We built the house last week. It's the same thing. You got to build that so that you have a solid business infrastructure. And I'll be very honest that, you know, I can speak from that place, because when I first started out in entrepreneurship, I was that person. I was so busy building my website, and then when people were like, "Okay, I want to book you," I'm like, "Oh, okay. Let me where I send the payment. Let me figure out how, you know." So it's like you got to build that business practice. But Bridget, can I just go back to one thing you said? I want to go back to what you said about people being able to trust you.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, because one thing that we have to understand as creatives and entrepreneurs, and you said it last week and we're going to say it again, is that not only is your product the brand and the business, but you become the brand and the business.
Correct.
And as much as we would like to the people, there is no separating. Now, why am I saying that? Because one thing that will cause me to lose trust in a business owner is not their product, but what I see them post as just them, the person.
Exactly right.
And so many of us feel like, oh, well, this is me just being me, and but there's no separation. And you talked about how people speak about your brand, but you know why they speak about your brand that way, Bridget? Because you're consistent in your messaging. Whether you're posting a product, whether you're doing coffee with Bridget, whether you're hanging with your family, whether you're with your girlfriends, we always see the same Bridget battles. We don't see you getting on Facebook talking about what got on your nerves. We don't see you commenting on everything, sharing, you know, different things. That is so important, because that is truly how you're going to build trust in people. And then once you build trust in that way, then they got to know they can trust you with the service. So part of building that business infrastructure is, if I do trust you with the service, I need to know that you can deliver, and I need to know you're going to be honest with me about what you can and cannot do. And y'all hear me tonight here. I feel like I need to put my Cash App up here, because but you get me, you get me stirred up. But be honest about what you can or cannot do. If you know you can't deliver it in that time, then don't say yes just to get those dollars.
That's exactly right.
If you know you don't have that skill and they want to see it done a certain way, don't say yes just to get that check, because word of mouth is the greatest way to kill your business. And trust and believe, if you do that client wrong, they gonna tell. And now you got social media. All they gotta do is post about you.
That's right.
So I just wanted to add that, because that's such
I think that's good. And so it's why it's so important, character and integrity. Character and integrity is so important. So now one of the things that I do is that when people reach out to me, I ask them, how did you hear about me? I want to know how you found me.
Yeah. Because
that lets me know, number one, if number one, okay, that means I need to focus on this area, because if you found me, there's some other people there that needs to find me. And number two is I need to go back and revisit what I've done there so that I can multiply in different areas of the business. So last week I got an email from the group called Rebel Ventures, I think it is. And so when I saw the email, they asked me to be on a panel, and then also asked me to speak about marketing and branding in fashion. And
she's booked and busy, just so y'all know.
So, I took the call and everything. And so the first thing I asked her, I said, so how did you find me? Because I had never heard of this organization. And that's number one. Research when people reach out to you, research the people that are reaching out to you. Research the organization and research the brand. So when you have a conversation, you can have an intelligent conversation about the actual company. So I had never heard of them. So I researched the organization, found out a little bit about it. So I took the call and I asked them, how did they find me? And I needed to find out specifically what they wanted me to do. Because if what they wanted me to do did not align with my brand, or if it did not align with my mission, vision, and value, I can't do it. So I have to stay, you have to stay in your own lane. It needs to align with your mission, your vision, and your values of the business. So after, really talking to them and finding out specifically about the brand, and I asked her how she found me, and you know what she said to me? Cam, she said that the reason that she was able to find me is that they did a search inside of Philly. After they did a search inside of Philly, the next thing they did was they narrowed the search down by influencers. And then the deciding factor to book me was my website. That's how they found me, was my website. So that's why it is so important when it comes to brand recognition. That's why it is so important that you are crystal clear on your messaging. It is so important about what you put out, because you want to make sure that your message is consistent and people know that they can trust you when it comes to your brand. And then the other thing too, which I think is so important, it's so important when it comes to your brand, and that is, don't try to be all things to all people. Whatever it is that you are skilled at, whatever it is that the mission, the vision, the value, whatever it is about your brand, the problem that you solve, make sure you stick to it and you hold true to that. Just because someone else has launched a product or launched a service or done something else doesn't necessarily mean that you have to alter what you're doing. And just because you see someone else being successful in one area does not take away from what you do. You stay true to who you are, be consistent, and be committed. So it's important when it comes to brand recognition.
Oh, yeah.
You stay true to who you are. Don't alter, don't waver. Just because someone else is going after the hottest trends or someone else is doing these things that are, that seemingly look like they are successful, does not mean that they're successful. You have to stay true to who you are.
And it goes back to what we said, that time and chance happen for us all, happen to us all, which means you're going to have your opportunity.
Yep.
You just have to be consistent and keep on building. And I lost connection for a while, so I don't know if you lost me or not. But one of the things that I wanted to just agree with you and say as well is that, we don't know how long somebody's journey has been.
That's right.
Get to the success that we see of them. And there's been a lot of people who've been working for years, no name, nobody heard of them. And then all of a sudden that time and that chance happens and it's exploded for them. And so you got to be comfortable with your journey. Success is not a race. And you want to grow and not swell. You don't want just to blow up big. You want to be able, and then you want to be able to enjoy the journey. I don't take away any year of my 14 years. Every year has taught me something. Every year I've grown, and mostly I've grown to the place where I've been comfortable with my journey. I'm not competing with anybody.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And something else you said, I want to go back to. Y'all know I get so hyped talking about branding and marketing and fashion. That's my lane, fashion and business. And John Hart, I love my brother John Hart in DC. Thank you for joining us.
That's my brother. I love
John Hart.
Man of God.
You said something else, Cam, I want to go back to.
Okay.
And that is, you have to be so careful when it comes to your personal business and your brand. Okay?
Yes.
You got to be so careful with that. 1 week you in love and, you want us to know that you got a boo. And then the next week you want us to buy your product.
Or you going off on a customer about how they did you wrong. Then you want to see, I ain't never going to purchase your stuff because you ain't going to talk about me. I'm so serious. I don't work with people like that who emote openly, and I don't purchase or engage people like that, because if you'll talk about them, you'll talk about me. I think it's highly unprofessional. I think it's highly unprofessional, and it tarnishes your brand because, now that you've said it on Facebook, now what? Right now what? Yeah, you got it out, but you have to take all things into consideration before you go down that road, because there's people who could be your greatest supporters and greatest clients who may not have ever commented, may not ever hit that like button, but they're seeing what you're posting and they're like, you know what? That's not going to work for me. And what's so amazing about that space is that we take time to address people who are really not even a part of our story and don't realize how we tarnish our credibility with individuals who will be the ones that really support us. You've never, and I'll be honest, I've had people at me, talk about me on Facebook, all that. You'll never see me respond. You know why? Because they're not in my invoices, they're not in my email, and they're not on my client list. So they are irrelevant to me. My focus is on people who somebody don't like that. I felt the devil get mad right there.
Well, Eric Holmes just said he felt the quickening right there.
I felt that, but I'm just saying, because we focus on the wrong people. We focus on explaining ourselves and addressing people who are not a part of your bigger picture. But as a creative and a visionary, you have people who, again, are those silent mentees who are watching your journey, watching what you're building, inspired by you. And the moment you take time to come off the wall to address peons who are not even a part of the story, you tarnish that credibility. So I hope y'all hear that tonight.
Yes. So listen, this is my next segue. Let me get my Barbara Walters on.
Oh, come on, segue. Oh, God.
Let me get my Barbara Walters on.
Get ready to say.
I agree. Number one, I don't address things either. I don't at all. And if anything needs to be addressed, I have a publicist.
Oh, come on, publicist.
I have a publicist. So if anything needs to be addressed, she will handle it. That's the first thing. Yes. And then the second thing is this. I want to encourage, other business owners and entrepreneurs. We've told you some things about how to get unstuck, but now we want to give you some things on how to grow and how to succeed. Definitely. And number one is really showing up as your authentic self. Be who you really are. Don't post things that are not true. If you're going to post it, make sure it's true about the brand and true about the business. So be your authentic self. People support people who are authentic.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And people can sense when you're not authentic. I think everybody on here can agree that you've either encountered somebody or know somebody who you're like, why are they fronting? Because we know that's not the truth, right? and so it's very important, because eventually the truth is going to come out one way or another. Whether you are saying people you don't know or can do something you can't do. Eventually that truth will come out, and it's just less stressful just to be honest. Mm-hmm. I live by that, especially when working with clients. If they ask me if I can do something and I can't do it, I tell them, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'll look into it and I'll try to figure it out. But I'm not going to say that's a service that I can offer you or something that I'm familiar with if I'm not. And I'm not going to act like I have more access to things that I don't if I truly don't. And I think people honor honesty, and just, it's so true. Just be your authentic self and be okay with being you. Yeah. Because there's an audience for you. There's an audience for all of us.
One of the things that Faliza says to me all the time, and it's funny when she says it, and for y'all don't know, Faliza is my makeup artist. Faliza says this all the time, and and now I hear it in my mind all the time, and she says this: you can't compete where you don't compare. Okay. And I said, Faliza, what is that? And she said, you can't compete. She always said, this is how she goes, Ms. Battles. You can't compete where you don't compare. And I said, Faliza, what do you mean by that? She says that people should not try to, especially your friends or people who are in your inner circle or people from afar. You should never compete with somebody else or compare yourselves to them, because your journeys are different. Your mission is different. The people you're called to serve is different. And the impact that you're making is different. So that is why it's so important not to compare your journey, not to compare what you're doing to what somebody else is doing. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We all have our own path. And I think it's important to honor that path, because we've been given that path for a specific reason. We are not here to be replicas of other people. And I think it's very important to honor that and celebrate it. Celebrate the ups, celebrate the downs, celebrate the wins, celebrate the losses as such, and learn something from them and move forward. Like we said, recover quickly.
Yeah. Hey, Tara. Hey, Michelle. So Cam, let's give the people some tools now.
Sure.
Give them some tools to succeed, some tools to grow, because Definitely. We want to be able to celebrate you. We want to celebrate your journey. We want to celebrate, you having a product launch. We want to celebrate, you being great at what you have been called to do. So Cam, what can you give us?
Okay, so let's talk about tools. And when you talk about tools, do you want me to go in a specific vein or just in general?
Just in general.
Okay, so I would say some of the tools that you need. And do you want me to give like specific resources or more so principles?
You can do a mixture.
Okay, all right. So as a starting out entrepreneur, I think that, some of the tools you need, and I'm going to just kind of navigate all through them. I'll give you maybe like 3 or 4. I think the first thing is you need a very clear plan. You need a long-term and you need a short-term and a long-term plan. And I think it's about leading with intention, right? So when you're launching something, or even if you're working in it now, what's the intent behind it? Because if you keep the intent at the forefront, you will always recalibrate back to that intent, right? So the moment you get discouraged, the moment you get frustrated, the moment that you get so many ideas and you start going off, because, you know, I'm a super creative, so I can get one idea and before you know it.
Wait. You a super creative.
Yeah,
I can testify to that because I'm proud of your super creations.
Yeah, but you know what? But every once in a while, I got to reel myself in, and I've learned how to manage my creativity. I keep plugging it, but you know, I have a book that's coming out soon, hopefully before the end of the year, called "You're Not Crazy, You're Creative." Because as super creatives, you know, we can start with an idea that's like this, and by the time we get finished writing it, it's like this, right? But when you lead with intent, you can then go back and say, okay, wait a minute. Let me be clear on the intent so that I know which step first and what may be overly ambitious at this time. So I think having long-term and short-term goals and having a clear intent is the first part for starting any business. And if you're even in your business or your product or your brand, you know, go back to that. Have it written down somewhere. I have a whiteboard behind me in my office and I write, you know, what is my intent? What is my overall goal with that? So I think that's the first place to start. I think the second thing would be what we talked about is having the foundation of your business. So having your articles of incorporation or your EIN number, understanding the laws around your specific business. And how that works. And if that's not your area, shout out to all the CPAs and all of them. I'm actually looking for one right now. If y'all have any suggestions, y'all inbox me. But you know, have people who, if that's not your area, can work on your behalf. Like you said, you know, you have a publicist, you have somebody who is a business mentor, you have somebody financially, a lawyer. You know, have an arsenal of people. And if you can't afford them, then look for, you know, there's so many different free resources and different apps that you can use, but understand the parameters around your specific business. So I would say intent and goals, setting a solid business structure. And then the third thing I would say is having those mentors, finding people who have succeeded in the area that you're going into, whether you know them or not. One of my greatest mentors, his book is behind me, and he does know it because I met him once, but Colin Cowie, who is an amazing event planner. You know, when I started out as an entrepreneur, I started as an event planner. And Colin was my daily mentor and didn't even know it. I was on his website every day. I was buying all of his books. I was watching all of his videos. And I literally built my business around the module that I saw work for him. And honestly, to this day, it's been the success of me being able to be a full-time entrepreneur. So I think having those things in place where you can glean from people and then finding local people like myself, like Bridget Battles, who you can actually get on the phone with, have a session with, talk to, say, hey, here's my idea. Shout out to, I've seen, you know, several people on here who have had coaching sessions with me. Simone, I see, is on, you know, having that brainstorming session, because you need checks and balances. Because sometimes as creatives, what we think is a good idea or may work, may not. And sometimes you need somebody else to be like, you know what, maybe you need to do it this way. So I would say those would be my top 3 things that I would say that you definitely need, you know, to have in your arsenal.
And so I'm going to add to that list. Number 1, I think it's so important to have healthy boundaries. You have to respect your entrepreneurship like you would a corporate job. You should set office hours.
Yes.
You should set project deadlines. You should really structure your entire business the way that you see it, the way that you see it growing. Structure the business, and you have to operate and function in it. So you set aside those times and you actually work the business. And, you know, and you have to be so discipline when it comes to actually working the business.
Yeah.
So working the business doesn't mean that you're consistently on social media. No, you have to spend time marketing. Marketing is the oxygen to your business. Let me say it again. Marketing is the oxygen to your business. If you don't market your brand, people won't know who you are. And most important, you won't generate revenue and you won't generate partnerships. So that's one thing. So we definitely have to market your business. The second thing is you have to set up healthy boundaries. When it comes time to really work on the business, you have to have office hours. Set up time where you return phone calls to clients. You know, set up times where you send out thank you cards to clients. Set up time where you do continuing education, because you always want to know what's best practices for your industry. Because what you started out doing in your industry is great because it got you to this point. But if you want to get to this next place, You got to know best practices. You got to know what's happening. You have to stay prevalent about what is actually going on in the industry. And then I also want to add is you have to be sensitive to the climate.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be sensitive to the climate when it comes to your business. And you have to be sensitive of the tone in which you are speaking when it comes to your business, especially if you want people to receive you and receive what you have to offer.
I agree. And when you talked about the boundaries in business hours, I think, even with that is to, set boundaries that cause people to look at your business as a reputable business, right? Anyone, when people reach out to me on Facebook, you know what I do? I tell them to send an email to bookings@CameronWashington or CW, and not because I'm too good to talk to them, but there is a certain level of familiarity, and there's just a different tone when you're talking through social media than when you send people through a business email. I found that to be very, very true. And I think it's important for you to set those boundaries so that people respect your business and know that you run your business a certain type of way. I think that's very, very important.
And so this next comment, I might get in trouble when I'm gonna say it anyway, okay?
Jesus.
And that is this, because one of my coaching clients I had today, don't commingle your money.
Oh.
You gotta separate your money. I understand when you start out, because we've all done it. We started out, you start making a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And we start making a little bit of money, it all goes into one pot,
Yeah.
And at the end of the month, you can't figure out, did I make a profit? Did I lose money?
Right.
What resource I need to reinvest in? No,
Yeah.
Don't commingle your money.
I agree.
Set up separate accounts. Now, it takes a little bit of time to get there. I understand that. Because the first couple of years, you're really investing because you really have to invest in the brand. And you can't be afraid of investing. But once you start seeing a revenue, once you start seeing money, don't commingle your money. That is so important because you mess up that way.
So true. So true. So true. You talking good tonight, Bridget Battles?
And then the other thing too, I think, which is, great for success is that don't be afraid to collaborate with other people. One of the things that I'm most proud of, and that is, so I'm on several boards in the community. And one of the boards that I'm most proud of is that I'm on the board for the Asian Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe me and one other Black person on the board. So when you go into areas that you are not necessarily familiar with,
yes,
there becomes an exchange there. You exchange information. You get introduced to new people. You learn new practices, and you start developing new relationships. And what happens is those relationships turn into leads. And those leads in a pipeline, because I don't always want to just have a one-off invoice paid. No, you want partnerships, you want relationships, and you want RFPs, not just a one-off contract.
Yes.
You want purchase orders. You want retention. So it's about, there's power in networking. There's definitely power in networking. You want to tell everybody about the power huddle? See how I said
it. Come on, say
it.
No, we always say as entrepreneurs, your network is your net worth, and it's very, very important. You got to always be connecting, networking, and what you said, even about you being a part of that Chamber of Commerce is, and get outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Get around some people who think differently than you. Even and I was talking to a friend last night, and he said something to me that really inspired me. He said, even though you're a pastor and you're a part of the church, you've been able to navigate, moving into the marketplace and other industries as well. And I think that's very, very important, that you keep an arsenal of all different diverse people and diverse connections and networks that you're a part of. But yeah, the Power Huddle is our community for creatives, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. You can go to thepowerhuddle.com. We actually have a meeting as soon as I get off with you tonight, a planning meeting for our next virtual conference. So the Power Huddle is there. And then, we talked about mentorship, and I also am doing one-on-one mentorship. So I would love to connect with some of you as well. But I'm excited about our community. We have great connection. We have great entrepreneurs. You can join the Facebook group and like the page by just going to the Power Huddle.
Yes. So now, so Cam, I know we only have a few more minutes left. This conversation is so good. Y'all, is this good? If this is good, somebody put in the comments, this is good. All right. We love talking about this kind of stuff.
Yes.
So now let's talk about the different levels of entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And so when I say the different levels, last week we talked about, people who are thinking about leaping, people who are in the middle of leaping, and people who have actually leaped.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think once you've taken that leap for entrepreneurship, you can actually become a corporatepreneur. I am a prime example of creating a business or brand while working a full-time job, and I've created a six-figure brand. It is possible.
Yes.
It is possible.
Yes.
Let's talk about the levels of entrepreneurship. So what advice do you give to people who are on the entrepreneurship journey?
Mm-hmm.
And part of being on the entrepreneurship journey, they're seeing growth. And as they're seeing growth, the brand and the messaging does not match up with the growth. I think one time before you made a comment about swelling.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say around that when the brand doesn't match up with the growth?
Yeah. Well, the comment you're referring to is I said that you want to grow and not swell. Anything that swells, it's enlarging, but it has infection in it. Or it has something wrong with it. But growth happens over time. And when we talk about the messaging not reaching the growth, and just so I'm clear, are you referring to what they're putting out marketing wise based on what they're seeing in return?
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know what? I will say that for every entrepreneur, there's going to be a season of that, because there is a season where you have to water what you don't see growing.
And you have to water what you don't see. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like the Chinese bamboo. I often use that analogy. The Chinese bamboo, for 5 years, you have to water it with seeing no growth. It doesn't grow for 5 years. But for 5 years, you got to water it every single day. But then also with the Chinese bamboo, in the 5th year, it grows 90 feet. It grows more in 1 year than it did in the 5 years you were watering it. And what is the message there? The message is for every entrepreneur who you're watering your brand, you're watering your business, you're watering your product, and you're not seeing the growth. The truth of the matter is that you got to water it every single day. What does that mean? What does that look like? It means you got to post about your business every single day, even if nobody likes it, even if nobody shares it. You got to send out your email blast and say, hey, register for my conference, buy my product, even when nobody responds. And you might get discouraged, but guess what? The next day, you got to post it again. And they may do the same thing, but the next day you got to post it again. Because what will happen is eventually your continual watering, you will eventually see growth. But we're in a world and a society right now where everything is right away, right? Everything is so quick. And so what happens is subconsciously we take on that mentality and we start to think that, well, this should be happening sooner for me, or this should be happening quicker for me, or I'm putting out my graphics, I'm putting out my videos, I'm posting about my website. Why am I not seeing the return? Because going back to what we said again, because to everything there is a season, and also time and chance happen for us all. But until that time and chance happens, you got to keep on watering that seed, that business, that product every single day. And that would be my encouragement to every entrepreneur. You will be amazed that eventually all of that is going to pay off. But if every other day you give up because you didn't get, a certain amount of likes, or you didn't get, the client today, then you're never going to see the growth. But you got to do it with the determination and knowing by faith that if I keep on doing this, this has to work.
And as I can add to that, you need to look like your brand. When we see you in the street, we want you to look the same way you look on Facebook.
My God.
Because if you don't look like your brand, that brings another level of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Look like your brand. The person that you display to us should be the same person that we see, of course, with your mask on, since we're in the pandemic. But still, you should always look like your brand, because your image is your credit card. If you care about the way that you look and you manage the way that you look, I know you are managed by finances, or managed by resources that I'm giving to you to support your brand. So that is so important. So,
and even more than that too, I'll go take that and push that another step further is, and then the people who work with you need to also look like your brand.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times we don't get the buy-in that we want. And a lot of times it may not even be necessarily because of you. It might be because of who is connected to the brand. I say that in ministry with members of my leadership team at the church is, there is a certain vision and mission for this house, and people need to see that whether they're in the parking lot, whether they meet you on the stairs, whether you are the usher, whether you are the greeter. It's the same thing with your business. Every single person who's connected to your brand needs to reflect the brand in their physical, in their mental, in their audible, whatever they're putting out as your brand. They got to also realize that they are a part of that, and people are going to connect them to you. So I think that's very important.
So we're down to our last few minutes. So if you have any questions, I know, right? If you have any questions for me and Cam, please give us your questions. We have a few more minutes. While we wait on a few questions, I need to talk about my sponsors and my, my new relationship. So tonight's shirt is sponsored, Empowered Women Empowered. Tonight's shirt is sponsored by The Boss Babes, thebossbabes.com. And anybody who orders a t-shirt using the discount code BB Experience, you get 30% off. I will definitely add that. Also, tonight's cup is by Carol Allsbrooks from Mount Calvary in DC. My cup says, I woke up like this. Also, tonight's lashes are by Falaz and Nicole Artistry. I can't blink good. So those who my lashes are by, but these are all the people who I have partnered with, who are sponsors for tonight. And then also I am now the fashion ambassador for Venice's.
Come on,
Venice's House of Fashion out of New Jersey. So a lot of new partnerships, these sponsors. If you have a product or service that you want me to promote on my social media, a product or service that you want to share with my audience, please email us. You can email us as info@thebbexperience.com, and me or one of my team members will get back to you. All right. Do we have any questions for tonight?
And you forgot about one good thing. You might be mentioning it at the end, but I'm gonna put it up for you now. Is doing a live shopping event. Y'all get into the live shopping event. Talk about it.
I'm enjoying this graphic right here. Come on here, brand manager. Come on here, brand manager. You set me right on up. I'm enjoying my own graphic tonight.
I love it.
Y'all join me tomorrow night. I'll be doing a live shopping event tomorrow night here on Facebook and on Instagram. I have some good things to show you tomorrow night. So make sure you join me right here tomorrow night. All right. Does anybody have any questions for us? Let's see. We got any questions for us? All right. So some of the feedback we've been getting. All right. Somebody said this is really good and helpful. Awesome. Who is that? Okay, that's from Jay. Thank you, Jay, for coming back. Simone, thank you so much for joining us. Hey, Ann. Hey, Donald. Hey, Robert. Hey, Phyllis. Hey, Danielle Flanagan. Thank y'all so much for joining us. If you have someone that you know that needs to hear this information, make sure you share this video. Make sure that you connect with Cam. Cam, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at CameronWashington.com. And also, I am doing a coaching. I've been coaching entrepreneurs every single day for the last 3 months. So you can connect with me if you want to book a session. Go to CameronWashington.com. We can talk one-on-one about whatever it is that you're doing in your brand development. Be glad to work with you. But yeah, everything is at CameronWashington.com.
Yes, everything is at Cameron. Will you guys do a collaboration class? Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Let's get it.
Yeah, collaboration. Jay, I'm going to go ahead and say yes. We will definitely do a collaboration class. Yes. Hey, Carolyn, thanks for joining us. So, Cam, thank you, Bridget and Cameron, for such a wonderful, informative session. Thank y'all for coming back. So, Cam, after last week's session, I got so many comments.
That's awesome.
People were asking about, you need to bring him back. You need to bring him back. So y'all just got to see a little bit of what I get on a monthly basis. This is like our ongoing conversation. We're always coming up with new ways to do things. We're always coming up with ideas. Every month we meet and we have a strategy session for the brand. And one thing about Cam that I absolutely love, and that is, y'all, Cam is definitely a planner. What year are you planning now? 2023?
Oh, yeah, I'm like in 2022, 23.
See, I knew it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Cam, just before we go, can you tell the people why you plan so far in advance?
Yeah, I plan so far in advance because I honestly, and I'm not gonna say I hate to be spiritual, but it works this way for me is that I literally get glimpses of the future, of time to come. The other reason I plan is because I think that it keeps me on track and it keeps me on an upward progression, right? So a lot of times when individuals see me launch things, they're like, wow, that just came out of nowhere. And I'm like, no, I was planning that a year or two ago. But it helps me to have upward progression. And it also, from a business perspective, it allows me to see financially and just economically what I'm doing with my business, how I can continue to grow it, and how I can be ahead of the game. Right, how I can be ahead. So even with my planning, I pay attention to trends. I pay attention to things that are slightly popular now, but can see will grow. And I try to see where I can fit my brand in with that. So, and it just keeps me organized, honestly, so that I'm not just creating on a whim. I have somewhere that I can look and say, okay, again, what's my intent? Or does this idea fit in with where I see the next 3, 4, 5 years going?
Martina Randall said,
hey,
now
Martina.
that's a real boss.
That's a girl, Martina. Shout out to her.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. Tonight was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Kel, of course, you already know how much I love and I appreciate you. Super excited about the things that we have coming up. Super excited about your space. So if you need a place to host a live event, if you need a space to go and take pictures at, Cam has an amazing creative workspace that I think you have slots open now where people can book them as well.
Yeah, you can book. Things are filling up, but you can book at CameronWashington.com. Just click on the link that says CWE Studio and Creative Space, and yeah, we can book for you.
And of course, I would love to connect with you as well. You can connect with me at www.thebbexperience.com, or you can text the word CEO Lady to 31996. And just before we go, tomorrow night, I will be doing live shopping here. And also tomorrow night, Eric, if you're still on, tomorrow night, I am being interviewed by Eric Holmes tomorrow, I think at 6:30 tomorrow night. We're talking about business, talking about entrepreneurship. It's a radio station out of Baltimore, Maryland. I think it's Radio 4.4. And Eric, if you're still on, you can put the graphic up or in the comment section for this. But so yes, by all means, please stay connected. I want to hear from you. I want to hear feedback. I want to hear what you loved about tonight, what you enjoyed, what you want to see more of. And so I want you to stay connected because we're all going to grow and we're all going to be successful. All right. So, Cam.
I know. I'm hood tonight. I'm sorry. Annoying. I don't have my mug tonight, y'all. Y'all forgive me. That's not good brand representation, but with some holy water.
You're gonna baptize somebody.
Holy water.
All right. So listen, thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight, and we will see you tomorrow night. All right. Have a good night. Cheers,
everyone.